Good day, everyone. Good, especially to you, Dr. Ricky Flores. My name is Rhea Mailerine Pueblo from BSED English 2A, and today I'm going to be talking about Introduction to Resources. So, first off, what is resource or resources? So, resources are useful or valuable possession or quality of a country, organization, or a person. So, these are anything that's valuable to a country, organization, or a person. When it comes to countries, this is what we refer to as natural resources. In organizations, there are a lot of different types of resources, and one of the most important resource a company or an organization could have is its human resources, and where I'll be talking more about it later on. And for persons, for a person, the number one resource of a person is his or her own personal information. So another definition of resources is it is a total means available to a company for increasing production or profit, including land, labor, capital, and raw materials. So it means it's anything that could help a country, an organization, or a person to boost profit and or to continue its production. So there are two types of resources. So the first one here is physical resources. So physical resources are tangible and can be easily identified. So when we mean tangible, it means that we can touch it. So we can actually physically touch the item, and we know for a fact that when we see it, we can identify that it's a form of resource. An example of physical resource would be wood, for example, to make a furniture or even build houses. So another example is bamboo for making bahay kubo. So because nowadays, I made this an example because nowadays there's a lot of ready-made bahay kubo, and in order for you to make a bahay kubo, or for certain businesses to make bahay kubo, their number one raw material is bamboo. That is why the bamboo is considered a resource. Now, we are not just going to be talking resources, or physical resources are not just about the raw materials used in creating products, but it's also the equipment used in making the product or construct. For my example, I used heavy equipments, so they are used for the construction of buildings or roads, perhaps. So we can consider these items to be physical resources. And another type of resource would be conceptual resources. So conceptual resources are non-tangible and are considered valuable for what they represent rather than their physical makeup. So when you, as I mentioned earlier, when you say tangible, it's something that you can touch. So non-tangible is the opposite of it. So these are resources that we can never touch sometimes. There are some instances that there are physical resources that are used so that we can use the conceptual resources. And I'll be talking more about it later on. So a good example of conceptual resource would be money, because money is made up from cheap paper, but the amount it represents makes it valuable. So we know that money is made up of paper or a mixture of metals. So if you think about it, that piece of paper doesn't really mean or doesn't really have a lot of value, or a coin doesn't really have that much of value. But if you put a number on it, for example 1,000, that piece of paper is very valuable now. So that's an example of conceptual resources. It's not really talking about the physical attribute, but it's more on the value that is added to that physical attribute of the item. Another form of conceptual resource, like I said, I mentioned this earlier at the beginning, is human resources. So it refers to employees of the company that has different skills, knowledge, and job experiences that are needed for the continued operation of the company. So the human being itself is a resource, because physically we can be touched, but the things that we can do, our skills, the things that we've learned, our experiences, those are not non-tangible. Nobody can touch it, nobody can take it from us. So our skills, or the things that we learn from school, eventually will be our number one resource, and that will also give us an edge when we go when we try to apply for jobs, because that's what sets us apart from other people. That is why in a company you have your staff, and then you have the managers, and then you have the CEOs, because they are categorized according to the skills that they have. So for human resources, it's anything involving the person that could help the company continued production, or that could help the company produce an item. So remember that in companies, the number one resource will always be its employees, because the company will not or cannot operate without employees. Now, there are other examples of resources, conceptual resources and physical resources. So these are items that are considered to be both. So an example is computers. So the physical unit is considered to be a physical resource, while the files saved on the computer are considered conceptual resources. And another example would be mobile phones. So nowadays everybody has mobile phones, but how important are mobile phones? So mobile phones, the physical unit, is considered again to be a physical resource, but it's also the one that's managing the conceptual resources saved on it. So pictures, videos, contacts, and personal data, all of these are called information. All of these are also considered as conceptual resources. So anything that is saved on your mobile phone or your smartphone will be considered as a conceptual resource. So since we're talking about conceptual resource, and I've already discussed about the mobile phones and your computers, I will also be talking about common threats to conceptual resources. I focused more on the threats for conceptual resources because, of course, for physical resources, we can identify the threats easily. Like if you just steal the item, then it's gone. So automatically there's a threat there. But for conceptual resources, it's still kind of new and not everyone is aware of these threats. So I thought that it would be a good idea to include this in this report. So let's talk about the common threats now. The first and foremost, especially for computers, is called malware. So what is malware? It is short for malicious software. So mal and then ware. Mal from malicious, ware from software. It is used as a single term to refer to viruses, spyware, worm, etc. So malware is designed to cause damage to a standalone computer or a network PC. Malware means a program which is designed to damage your computer. It may be in a form of a Trojan, a worm, or a virus, which is very common nowadays. Some of the most common sources of malware are email attachment, malicious websites, torrents, and even shared networks. So the most common, I guess, malware that I know of is a couple of years ago, there was this I love you virus. It was a virus that was shared through email. So someone, I think if I could remember it correctly, it was a Filipino who created this virus. The virus was sent as an attachment to an email, and then eventually that email was forwarded and forwarded and forwarded to other people. It spread all over the world, it got the attention of the FBI from the US and the Pentagon because their computers were also infected by this virus. So what it did was that it 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 spread it spread itself by using the receiver's email, and then of course it transferred to other people. So everybody was panicking about it, and that's one of the most common type of virus that I have that I could remember. There are a lot of other viruses that actually caused a lot of harm to computer networks, and the most common way to transfer it for us students will be through the use of a USB device or any storage device. So when you use when you plug your USB to an infected computer and you plug it to your own computer, so there's a big chance that your computer is already infected with that virus. So eventually you will feel that your computer is very slow. It's not performing as good as it used to. So that's one of the things that a lot of people don't like about getting viruses, because it interrupts your work. So there are a lot of common malwares, but I actually boiled it down to just 4. So as I've mentioned earlier, we have there a virus. It's a type of malware that attaches itself to other programs. It self-replicates and spreads from one computer to another. So that's what I mentioned about the I love you virus. It replicated itself and sent emails to other people so that it can also affect other people. Now, a Trojan is a type of malware that conceals its true content to fool a user into thinking it's a harmless file. So a Trojan, it came from the word from the Trojan horse concept of in Greek mythology, where they actually presented a gift in the shape of a Trojan, of a horse, without knowing that there was something inside it. So that's also this concept of a Trojan. So it will disguise itself as, for example, a software or a program that is good for your computer, but actually it's not. So it's just a decoy. There's something else that program will do to your computer, which eventually will give you problems. Now, a worm is a malware that reproduces itself and spreads over network connections. They're designed to consume bandwidth and interrupt networks. So I actually was actually able to experience this kind of malware, the worm. So what it does is that it's just a really tiny program, or we call it an exe file, executable file. I actually pressed on it, and then all of a sudden I discovered my computer could not load any pages on the internet. My browser is just loading. I can't do anything on my computer because this worm was actually eating up all the bandwidth of the internet connection, and my computer basically froze. So it to the point that I had to have it repaired. That's why worms are very, very tricky ones. Now, the next one here is we have keyloggers. So keyloggers keep track of your keystroke or on your keyboard and record them on a log. This information is used to gain unauthorized access to your accounts. So keyloggers, I'm not sure if it was popular or if you've heard about it, but a couple of years ago it was very popular between me and my friends. We rarely go to because keyloggers are actually often found on internet cafes. So what they do is that they have this program on the computer where everything that you type on the keyboard, that's why it's called key logger, is recorded. So if you open your Facebook account, for example, on an unknown computer for the first time, there's a big chance that when you type your username and your password, the keylogger already has a record of it. So whoever put that keylogger in that computer will have access to your accounts. And to be honest, I actually used this before with my ex, because I had a feeling he was cheating on me. So I installed a keylogger on his cell phone and his computer, and yes, I was able to get his Facebook account, and I found out he really was cheating on me. So keyloggers is a breach of privacy, but sometimes it could also help you it could also help in some scenarios, but not all of the time. So, but don't use keyloggers. It's not good. So, now another common threat to conceptual resource is, this is very common, is phishing. So, a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, a lot of people may not know that they are already victims of phishing. So phishing is a method of cyber attack that attempts to trick victims into clicking on fraudulent links and emails. So phishing messages will usually contain a link that takes the user to a fake website that looks like the real thing. The user is then asked to enter personal information such as their credit card number. This information is then used to steal the person's identity or to make fraudulent charges on their credit card. So this description only talks about credit card, but for this one, I had some friends who were victims of this. So, for example, on this example, this is an email example of what a phishing email looks like. So if you check on this example, the address is actually, or the email address is actually legit, or it's real. So Memphis.edu is actually real, but the link here, or the click here link on this example, is actually the one for a phishing site. This is not connected to Memphis.edu IT help desk. No, it's not. So this link here, or hyperlink here, will actually lead you to a different website, and it will ask you to log in your details, and that's how scammers and hackers can actually get your information. So from what I've experienced, or from what I've learned about phishing, is that sometimes the link, when you click on it, because what scammers do, or what hackers do, is they actually create a website to make it look like a real website. For example, they will try to make it look like a bank website. So when you click on it, it will automatically ask for your username and password. That's the only thing that you will see on that website. The name of the bank and what you're trying to do, and then there's just this box with a username and a password, because that's the only information that they need. They just need your username and your password in order for them to access your account. And if you don't know that, if you're someone who doesn't know how to check the email address, if it's a real email or not, then there's a big chance that you can be a victim of this. So be careful of the links that you click. And another common threat to conceptual resource is smishing. So if phishing is for emails, smishing is short for SMS phishing. So it combines SMS, literally short message services or texting, with phishing. It's a phishing scam that operates through text messages. This is the most common one in the Philippines. This is the reason why we have the SIM card registration now, is because our government is trying to eliminate the scammers who use smishing, because especially in our country, there are a lot of older people who are not familiar, or who cannot identify scammers from the real ones. So this form of threat is the reason for for all of this. So if you can check on the examples that I've presented here, these are all examples of smishing. Some of us might have already received this kind of SMS, like you won something from this, but you have to transfer money first in order for you to get the bigger prize, or you're hired for a job that you did not apply for, and the most common one is OTPs. So when they remember that for hackers, they will try to open your account, but our banking system now, most of the time here in the Philippines, they have what we call OTP. So yes, even if they have your username and your password, the bank system will still ask for a one-time PIN or OTP. One-time pins are normally sent to your mobile phones. So what the hackers will do, they will request for an OTP. They will send you a text message saying that this is your bank, your account has been compromised. If you've received a code, please send it back to us. So if you're someone who is not afraid, if you're someone who is not aware or is not familiar with this kind of scenarios, then you might send them the code. Once you do send them the code, it's already a done deal. They've already gotten your information. So be careful of giving out OTPs. Remember, OTP, if you did not request for an OTP, do not give it to someone else. So the last common threat of conceptual resource is phishing. So we've already talked about phishing and smishing. Now we have phishing. There's a lot of phishings going on in the world right now. So phishing, also known as voice phishing, is a cybercrime whereby attackers use the phone to steal personal information from their targets. In a phishing attack, cyber criminals use social engineering tactics to persuade victims to provide personal information, typically with the goal of accessing financial accounts. So for this one, I was able to not really experience it, but in my job before, I was able to talk to a customer who was a victim of this. And what the scammers did was that they called her and then they told her that her computer is compromised, and they pretended to be from, I guess, Apple or maybe from Microsoft. They pretended to be this technical support for that company, and then they asked her to download something. And when they asked her to download it, it was actually an application. I forgot the term for the application that makes them control the computer on their end. So whatever is happening or whatever information that is on the customer's computer, they have access to it because they are now controlling the victim's computer. And another example of phishing, again, I want you to take note of the term social engineering. When you say social engineering, they actually try to put you in a situation where you cannot say no to their requests. So how does it work? I prepared a video to give a video example so that it will be easier for you to understand exactly how phishing works, and hopefully this will help you identify if you're a target or if you're a potential victim of this, and avoid it. So let's take a look at this video. There we go.
They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and
Okay.
see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna spoof from your number, so it's gonna look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for usage information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
At gmail.com.
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry. So there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right. Thank you.
That's an example of vishing. So as you can see there, the woman was in no way related to the man. She was not even connected to his account, but because of social engineering, they tried to they put the operator in a situation where she has no option but to say no, but to say yes, I mean. So that's what vishing is all about. Think of it as budol, budol over the phone. So I don't think this happens a lot in the Philippine setting. I guess in the Philippines we are more prone to smishing, but if in case you do receive these kinds of calls, you now know how to avoid them. So just a quick recap of the threats or some of the common threats to conceptual resources. So again, for phishing, you have phishing basically it targets your email, or they do it through your email, smishing through SMS, and vishing through phone or voicemail or voice over internet protocol VoIP. These are the ways where hackers and scammers can attack you and get your conceptual resource or your information. So remember that whatever information about yourself that you put online or that you put on your phone will be considered as conceptual resource. So also just another note, there's another way for people to get your information, and that is through your Facebook account. I know of someone, again, who was victimized. He almost gave his OTP because someone pretended to be a family member. They know who to copy because his family members were actually tagged and publicized on his Facebook account. You know that part on your Facebook where you're about, I think that in your about details where you can put who your father is, your brother is, your sister, your niece, your aunt. Those that section, it on his Facebook it was set to public, so anyone can see it. So that person actually created a fake Facebook account with the exact information of his family member. They got the picture and they pretended to ask for help. So they said, hey, this is my new Facebook. I got locked out from my old one. I can't access it anymore. I tried to use your number to get my old account, but it's asking for an OTP that was sent to your number. Can you please send me the OTP? So he almost gave the OTP thinking that he was helping a family member, but in truth the OTP was for his own personal email, which has his bank information. His bank is connected to that email address. So be careful of the information that you put on your Facebook account. Yes, it's an interesting, or for now, you might feel that it's just okay for you to post anything under the sun on your Facebook account, but there's a lot of people there who are after your information, your resource. So protect yourself, protect your resources, and don't just post all of them, especially your birthday, on the internet. So that's it for my report, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is the end. Good day again, everyone. Take care.